I always thought I knew what betrayal was. I've been cheated on by friends when they forgot about me after college. I've been set up at work when they took my ideas and appropriated them for themselves. But I had no idea how deep the betrayal could go when it came from the person closest to me. That's how it was. Buckle up and listen. I never liked surprises, but for Rebecca's sake, I decided to make an exception. 16 hours on an airplane, a layover in New York, fatigue I could only manage on caffeine, but I couldn't stop smiling. At the last minute, the business trip to Europe was cut short by a week, and instead of telling my wife right away, I decided to arrange a surprise meeting with her. I wanted to see her genuine joy, to see her throw herself into my arms, to feel her warmth after a long separation. I imagined entering the house, placing my suitcase by the door, saying something like, "Baby, I'm home," and I'd hear her shriek of surprise. I imagined her running up to me, brushing my hair out of my face, nuzzling me, interrupting my words with kisses. But the reality turned out to be quite different. When I turned onto our street, I immediately sensed something wrong. The driveway to the house was lined with expensive cars, most of which I knew. On the lawn hung ribbons in pastel colors, balloons with inscriptions that at first seemed meaningless to me. Until I saw the huge banner stretched over the porch. "Welcome, our little miracle." I hit the brake sharply. Little miracle? I reread the words one more time, as if hoping I was blind from fatigue and imagining this text. But no, it was real. Could it be someone's holiday and the house was just being used as a playground? Rebecca and I had given the keys to her friend Lisa more than once when she threw parties. But then I saw someone coming out of the house with a tray in their hands. My mother. She was laughing at something said in the house and didn't even look back. Her face was glowing with joy, as if the happiest event of her life was happening there inside. I didn't know what to do. My heart was pounding in my ears, and my breathing became ragged. I had never felt such a strange, clammy feeling, like fear, but accompanied by a strange emptiness. No one was waiting for me. No one had planned my return. What was going on here? I parked a few feet away and got out, but the closer I got to the porch, the more I noticed details that made my body tense up. Everything was perfectly decorated. Delicate colors, toy storks, teddy bears on the tables. It was a baby shower. But whose baby? I pushed open the door and walked in. Inside there was a joyous clamor of voices, laughter, champagne glasses clinking in the hands of the guests. Someone shouted, "Jonah, you are definitely going to be the best father ever." The world shrank to a single point. Jonah. There was only one Jonah I knew. My best friend. Everything inside me shattered. I took a step forward, but no one had noticed me yet. I saw Rebecca standing in the center of the living room, dressed in an elegant pale blue dress. I remembered that dress. I had bought it myself, knowing that it emphasized her slim waist. But now there was no waist. Her belly was rounded. Rebecca was pregnant, and Jonah was standing next to her with his hands on her belly. I didn't even immediately realize what was happening. The voices sounded like they were coming from underwater. I could hear individual phrases. "We are so happy for you. You are going to have such a beautiful baby. Rebecca, you're glowing. My Rebecca." No, it's not. I don't know how long I stood there in the doorway before Jonah noticed me. His face changed. He took his hands away from Rebecca's stomach, as if he only now remembered that there were things he wasn't supposed to do. Rebecca saw me following. Her eyes rounded. Her lips were ajar, but no sound came off them. I felt like a mannequin. Everything I knew crumbled in seconds, but I didn't let my emotions take over. I seemed to have missed something. The whole room froze. The whispers disappeared. All eyes settled on me. I was staring into the face of my wife. The face of the man I thought was my brother. I wanted to hear their words, their excuses, their lies. But none of them could say anything. In a room where a moment ago there had been laughter and congratulations, now you could hear the champagne glass tinkling subtly in someone's hand. I took a step forward. Rebecca's eyes darted between me and Jonah, as if she were trying to think of what to say. I took a deep breath, and without raising my voice, but loud enough for everyone to hear, I said, "Whose baby is this?" I looked at her, at her belly, at the way Jonah leaned forward a little, like he wanted to cover her with himself. "Come on, Rebecca, tell me." I took another step. "Whose baby is this?" She inhaled sharply. "Ronald, let's talk in private." "In private?" I grinned, feeling my insides boil. "And when you slept with my best friend, did you think about in private too?" Jonah pressed his lips into a thin line, looking at me. "It's not that simple, dude." "Did you seriously just say it's not that simple?" Jonah looked away. I looked at Rebecca again. You could have told me. You could have at least tried to be honest. But you didn't just cheat. You threw a goddamn party. At my house. She stepped toward me, eyes glistening. Ronald, I just didn't know how to say it. You knew? I looked her straight in the face. You just decided you were more comfortable not telling. It was a one-time thing, she whispered. One time? I turned sharply to Jonah. And you? Will you confirm? One time. He swallowed. Ronald, we didn't mean for this to happen. My body tensed to the breaking point. You're not even in denial. He lowered his head. Things had gone too far. Too far? I grinned. You impregnated my wife, Jonah. Is that far enough, do you think? The silence around me grew denser and denser. I looked around. My mother, father, sister, her friends and my friends. People I had known for years and had known all along. I exhaled sharply and spoke up, slowly looking around at everyone. Did anyone else know? No one moved, but I could see it in their faces. My mother avoided my gaze. My father exhaled heavily. Liz, Rebecca's friend, bit her lip, clearly not knowing where to go. You knew? I looked at Rebecca. How many months? She blinked. What? How many months have you been carrying a baby I didn't make? Ronald, tell me. She swallowed. 7 months ago. I remember. I was on the same business trip. I was gone for 2 months. She called me, wrote me, told me she missed me. And then, apparently, she went to see him. You didn't even try to use protection? I whispered. Rebecca blushed. It was a mistake. A mistake? I grinned and turned to the guests. Do you hear that? She says it was a mistake. But somehow the mistake turned into a whole damn party. I laughed. But it came out in a strange, painful way. I looked at Jonah again. What were you going to do? Raise him as your own? Jonah looked away. We were going to tell you. When? I shouted. When the baby starts talking. When they ask me to participate in a DNA test. Or when the baby asks, why do I have eyes like Uncle Jonah? Rebecca inhaled convulsively. We didn't mean to hurt you. I closed my eyes. Didn't mean to hurt me. Then I exhaled and said, here's the deal. Listen to me carefully. I turned to Rebecca. Do you want this baby? That's fine. It's yours. I'm leaving. I turned to Jonah. You wanted to steal my wife? Take it. I hope she betrays you the way she betrayed me. Turned to his family. You all knew. And you kept quiet. And you acted like everything was fine. Remember this moment, because it's the last time you'll ever see me. Rebecca burst into flames. Ronald, please wait. I turned around and took a step toward her. Her breathing hitched. Wait? Did you wait? She pressed her lips together, and I leaned down to her ear and whispered, I'll give you what you deserve. Just wait. And then I turned and walked away. On the porch, I heard someone crying. I didn't go home, because I didn't have a home anymore. Instead, I checked into a motel on the outskirts of town, threw my suitcase in the corner, and sat on the bed. I replayed over and over in my head the moment I walked into that stranger's house. When I saw her with her belly rounded. When I heard him telling everyone he was going to be a father. I should have torn the place apart. I should have punched Jonah, grabbed Rebecca by the shoulders, and made her tell me why. But I didn't. Because anger is a bad tool. It was supposed to be a tool of revenge, not weakness. I took a deep breath and turned on my laptop. First, to deal with the money. Rebecca had never worked a day in her life. She lived off my money, enjoying the beautiful life. Jonah didn't bother much either. He worked for my company, and, as I suddenly realized, probably used me not only as a friend, but as a convenient fool. So I take everything away from them. I logged into online banking and closed the joint account. Transferred the money to a separate one. Left Rebecca exactly $7. Now for the most important part. I had to destroy them socially. People hate betrayal. They judge cheaters. They gossip. They write caustic comments. But even more than that, they love drama. What if the drama happens live on the air? I opened my phone, logged onto the general chat room with my friends, and started scrolling through the correspondences. I didn't immediately realize what I was looking for. But suddenly I came across a voicemail message sent to me 5 months ago. From Lisa. Ronald, look, I don't mean to pry, but I think Rebecca and Jonah are spending too much time together. I could be wrong, of course, but you take a look for yourself. 5 months ago. I didn't even give it a second thought at the time. But Lisa knew. I slowly dialed her number and pressed the call. Ronald? Her voice sounded uncertain. You knew. She exhaled. Ronald, please. I didn't know for sure. I knew. I interrupted her. But you like gossip, right? You want a real bombshell? She stopped talking. I need your help. What? You want that bitch to get what she deserves? Lisa was silent for a long time. Then she said quietly, yes. Then listen. I told her my plan in detail. And then I began to prepare the big show. I spent the next day in the shadows. I didn't answer my cell phone. I ignored messages from Rebecca and even my mother. But I could see they were worried. They knew I couldn't just walk away. And they were right. Because in just 2 days, Rebecca and Jonah were to throw another party, this time at an expensive restaurant. A big party dedicated to their future child. The whole family, friends, co-workers, and me would be there. I made sure Lisa took her cell phone with her. And when the guests filled the room, the champagne flowed, and Rebecca and Jonah came out to a round of applause, the show would begin. I showed up 10 minutes before the official start of the evening. I entered the hall quietly, without a murmur. I sat down in the far corner, pulling my cap down low. People didn't notice me right away. But when they did, a strange, awkward silence began to form around me. Someone whispered, someone furtively glanced in my direction. But no one dared speak. Rebecca was radiant. She held Jonah's hand, proudly stroking her belly. Everyone looked at them with rapt attention. I waited for the waiters to pour the champagne, while the guests made their first toasts. For Rebecca to raise her glass and say, I'm so happy that we're all here tonight and that our baby is surrounded by so much love. And that's when the screen behind her came to life. The truth that blew everything up. A huge screen in the center of the room. A video I had prepared in advance. Rebecca and Jonah's correspondence. Voicemails. Screenshots. Photos. I can't wait for Ronald to go on a business trip. I want you right now. Just don't tell him. I don't want to ruin everything. I'm so happy he doesn't suspect anything. And finally, the video. Jonah and Rebecca. In my bedroom. In my bed. The security camera I installed a few years ago. I saw Rebecca's glass shake in her hand. I saw Jonah go pale. How the people in the audience started whispering, covering their mouths with their hands, glancing around. The mother covered her face with her palms. My father turned purple. And I got up from my seat. There was dead silence in the hall. I stepped forward and said, surprise. Rebecca exhaled convulsively. Ronald. I raised my hand. No. Today it's your turn to listen. I looked around at everyone. Congratulations. You lied to me. You covered up. You covered up for those two. But the truth always comes out. I turned to Rebecca. You betrayed me. I looked at Jonah. You betrayed me. I grinned. But the funny thing is, you thought you could just move on with your life like nothing happened. I turned around and walked towards the exit. But before I left, I threw over my shoulder. Enjoy your happiness. It won't last. And then I was gone. Behind me came a woman's scream and the sound of breaking glass. After the reveal, I literally disappeared. I didn't go back to the motel. I didn't pick up the phone when my mother, father, even Lisa called. Didn't respond to dozens of messages from Rebecca that started with, Ronald, please talk to me, and ended with, you ruined everything, you're just a sick bastard. I left for a neighboring town, checked into a hotel, and spent the night thinking about the next step. Rebecca no longer existed for me. But Jonah, he hadn't paid his price yet. Jonah worked at my company. I brought him there myself, pulled him up from the bottom, gave him a chance he never would have had without me. He wasn't even an expert. He was just there when I needed someone I could trust. Ironic, isn't it? Now my task was simple. Bankrupt him, so that he couldn't even swipe a credit card at the store. First, I called the finance department. I need a full report on last year's paychecks and bonuses. The girl on the other end stammered. Ronald, you're on vacation now, aren't you? Not anymore. Give me the numbers. She swallowed. Okay, just a minute. When I got the paperwork, a familiar name flashed before my eyes. His income was much higher than it should have been. I scrutinized the report and saw strange bonuses, false accruals. The bastard was stealing money from me. It might not be millions, but... I made a quick call to the head of security. Get me everything on John. Every transaction, every fake transfer, anything that might look suspicious. Did something happen? He betrayed me, I said calmly. And now I'm going to take everything from him. The next morning I showed up at the office, and everyone looked at me uneasily. I sat down in my office and called Jonah to me. He came in about 10 minutes later. He looked like crap. Eyes puffy, hands nervously tugging at the edge of his jacket. He knew why I'd called him in. Sit down, I said. I opened the laptop and slowly turned the screen toward him. Do you recognize it? He turned pale. There were statements on the screen. All his illegal accruals. All the hidden bonuses. Every dollar he'd siphoned off. He swallowed. Ronald, it's not what you think. I smiled. Really? Explain it to me. He froze, trying to think of a lie. But I didn't give him time. You stole from me. You cheated on me behind my back. You slept with my wife while I worked to pay for her and your life. I stepped forward. Have you forgotten who brought you here, Jonah? He swallowed. Ronald, please. You're fired. He flinched as if struck. Ronald, don't do this. I need this job. You should have thought of that before you betrayed me with my wife. He's breathing harder. I can fix this. I chuckled. Yeah? Fix it. You can undo Rebecca's pregnancy? Can you undo your betrayal? He didn't say anything. I leaned back in my chair. I could sue you, Jonah. For fraud. He choked. No. I could turn that information over to the police. I can't. But I'll give you a chance. He looked at me with hope. What kind of chance? I smiled coldly. You'll leave on your own. You'll leave town. And you won't get a dime. His face contorted. Ronald, it's out of the question. He turned pale. Rebecca, she doesn't know. I don't care what she knows. I'm up. You're gonna walk out of this office a pauper. And if I find out you're staying in town, I'll take the paperwork to court. I looked down at him. So make your choice. Okay. You have 24 hours, Jonah. He nodded and walked out. And a day later, he was gone. I knew Jonah was a bust now. No job, no money, no friends. And no Rebecca. Because Rebecca didn't want to be with a beggar. She wrote to me, threatening that I'd ruined her life. That the child had nothing to live on. That I should give her money. I just read it and closed my phone. A couple weeks later, I happened to see her on the street. She was walking alone. No expensive jewelry. No bright smile. She saw me. Our eyes met. And I saw understanding in her eyes. She had lost everything. I hadn't. I smiled. And I moved on. Jonah was gone. Rebecca was left with nothing. And me. I had one last thing to finish. My family. The people who knew. People who hid. People who betrayed me as much as Rebecca and Jonah. I couldn't just walk away without telling them everything I thought. Without letting them feel every word. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother's number. She answered on the second ring. Ronald. I didn't let her finish. We have to talk. She froze. About what? I grinned. You know what about. Silence. And then. Okay. Come over tonight. We'll be waiting. I get it. The whole family will be there. Great. It's not just a conversation. It's going to be a trial. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp. My dad's car was already in front of the house. So they were waiting. I went out, walked slowly up the porch, didn't knock, opened the door. I saw them. My mother was sitting on the couch, her hands clenched, her eyes anxious. Father stood at the window, his back to me. Sister nervously rubbing the edge of her dress, obviously not knowing where to put herself. I closed the door behind me and walked to the center of the room and looked at them. You knew? The mother flinched. Ronald, what time is it? I interrupted. How long had you known my wife was sleeping with my best friend? Father exhaled, but didn't turn around. The sister swallowed. I found out a while ago. I looked at her. How recently? She looked away. When Rebecca told me she was pregnant. I laughed. Muffled, emotionless. 5 months, then. My sister closed her eyes. Ronald, we didn't know how to tell you. I turned sharply to my mother. Did you? When did you find out? She bit her lip. Almost immediately. I felt something tearing inside me. Right away? She looked up at me. Ronald, she said it was a mistake. A mistake. I grinned again. You know, Mom. If you had told me. If you had just warned me. I took a step towards her. I would have at least known. She jumped up. I didn't mean to ruin your family. I froze. Then slowly leaned toward her. You didn't mean to ruin my family? She sobbed. I looked her straight in the eye. She was already ruined. She trembled. Ronald, you have to understand. I straightened up. I don't have to do anything. I looked around at everyone. You betrayed me. I turned to my father. And you? Did you know? He was silent for a long time. Then he said quietly. Yes. When? About a month ago. I stepped toward him. And you didn't tell me either. What would that have changed? What would that have changed? He turned sharply toward me. She's carrying the baby, Ronald. We didn't want this to turn into a scandal. I exhaled. Were you thinking about me? We were thinking. No. You were thinking about Rebecca. About John. About protecting them. I took a step back. What about me? Am I just trash to be thrown away? Father lowered his head. Sister was silent. Mother was crying quietly. I looked at them for a long time. Then I said, I didn't come here to apologize. I paused. I came to tell you that you are no longer my family. The mother sobbed. Ronald. I held up my hand. No, it's your choice. You chose them. I turned toward the door. I'm leaving forever. My father closed his eyes. Ronald, don't say that. I grinned. You did this to yourselves. I looked at them one last time, and then I left. That night, I erased all traitors from my life. Rebecca, Jonah, my parents, my sister, they no longer existed. I began to live again, without them. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Jonah lost his job, but Rebecca was still clinging to what was left of her life. She hoped that her parents would help, that she could file for child support, passing the baby off as mine. She didn't know I'd already hired the best lawyers. She didn't know I'd left a trail of financial records, a DNA test that wasn't even required, but was on standby, and something else. I sat in the cafe, watching my phone. Lisa texted first. Dude, did you seriously do that? Then a friend from the company. I'm just shocked. You're the devil, man. And finally, a message from Rebecca. You killed my life. I grinned. Great. So the plan worked. I went online and scrolled through the news. The headlines were peppered with articles. Red Circle, successful entrepreneur's wife cheated on him with his best friend. The public is shocked. Red Circle, mother to be a traitor? Ronald Sanders' shocking story. Red Circle, disgrace of the year. Cheating, pregnancy, and scandal on live TV. I cracked open one of the articles and saw the video. That moment from the restaurant. That moment when I turned on the screen and made them see the truth. Now the whole town has seen it. And not just the city. It's all over the internet. Photos, chats, scandalous details. She couldn't go outside without whispers behind her back. Her parents refused to help, too embarrassing. Old friends? They either turned away or just looked on with contempt. She didn't have a job, she'd never worked. And I'd already ensured that Jonah couldn't support her. She was left all alone, as she should have been. A month later, I was sitting at the airport with a glass of whiskey, ready to fly to Europe. A new life. No traitors, no pain. Just a fresh start. I caught a glimpse of the news. Red Circle, Jonah is out of town. Rebecca is desperate. The scandal won't subside. I grinned. It was truly over now. Suddenly someone sat down across from me. I looked up. Lisa. She was looking at me with a slight smile. You're leaving? I nodded. She leaned closer. I'm happy for you. I smiled, too. I walked out to the landing without looking back. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you liked the story, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm show my content more often. If you are new to the channel, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep making more stories for you.